Hi, in today's video I'm going to show you how to open up, disconnect, and remove a NuTone IM3204 master station. This is a model IM3204. It was introduced by NuTone in 1997 and it was in production through the end of 2004 or the beginning of 2005, and it was in some respects the replacement model for the NuTone IM2003. It's not a direct replacement for the 2003 because the 2003 is a 3-wire system and the 3204 is a 4-wire system. The 3204 is the only 4-wire system that NuTone ever made, and that's why it's not really a direct replacement for the 2003 because they're not interchangeable because the wire is different. The 3204 was the entry-level builder's model for NuTone radio intercom systems. Because it is an entry-level builder model, it is somewhat limited compared to the next model up, which would be the IM3303. So let's do a quick overview of what we have on here, then I'll show you how to open it up. So on the front of the unit, the styling is very much like a 3303. You have less controls. You have a smaller control panel. You have master speaker volume knob here, which is for the volume at the master station. You have a backlit LCD display. And the 3204, contrary to what some people think and they call and ask about it, there is no clock built into it. This unit right here is not powered up right now, but even if it were, the display would be blank unless we turn the radio on. So you have your radio tuning buttons here, you have scan tuning, and then you have tune up, tune down arrows. You have your program on and off, which would turn the radio on and off. You have program select. It allows you to select between AM, FM, and there is one auxiliary input on the back. Memory recall, if I recall correctly, you can preset 4 AM and 4 FM stations into memory. And then we have our intercom controls here. These are the same as all other NuTone models of the same period. You have inside patio talk, door talk, and end call. There's one panel behind the door on the bottom edge. There's only one door that opens up. This is a fixed part of the faceplate over here. One of the limitations on a 3204 is that it was designed to only have a maximum number of 6 remote stations, so you could have a combination of 6, a total of 6 inside and or patio stations, plus up to 2 entry doors. You also have 3 position selector switches. You can have rooms in either radio and intercom, off, or monitor. There is no intercom only mode. And then you have your other normal adjustments. You have intercom volume adjustment, loudness on or off. When the loudness is on, it adds 8 decibels of bass into the music. You have system volume, which is your music level throughout the house, separate bass and treble controls, a memory set button to program your AM and FM radio stations, and a little hole right here to access the reset button. So removing an IM3204 is a relatively straightforward process. You really only need 4 things to do it with. You're going to need a Phillips screwdriver, you need a flat screwdriver, you need some masking tape, and a marker or a pen will do if you don't have a marker. The first step is to open up the master station. It's held to the wall housing by 2 screws through the faceplate, one here on the left and one here on the right. And we're going to go ahead and take these out. Like the other models from this time and past models that were made since 1984, this model is mounted to the wall housing with hinges at the bottom, so you don't have to worry about it falling off on the floor as you take the screws out. So there's the left one, and here's the right one. It's always a little hard to do this when you're trying to stay out of the way of the camera so you can see and do it left-handed, which I'm not left-handed. Almost got it. Alright, so once you get the screws out and it's loose on the wall, it simply folds down. Unlike other models, there is no support strap that comes with it to attach it to the wall housing to hold it up a little bit, but the hinges here in the back are plenty strong enough to hold it in place. Now that we have it opened up, let's do a quick review of what we're looking at here on the back side. The 3204 is made up primarily of two circuit boards. You have the power and amplifier board here on the back of the unit. This chrome box right here is the AM/FM tuner. So you have the first board on the back. The other board is down below it. It's the green board, and it's actually somewhat larger. It sits underneath the first board. It contains the display, the microcontroller, the connections for the remote stations, the switchboard assembly. Down here we have this one. This particular one has the optional Chime module, which is mounted down here, and we'll be talking about that in a minute. Here's the built-in speaker here, and here is our one audio input jack right here. One of the things about the model 3204 is that there is no terminal board mounted in the back of the wall housing. All of the wiring comes in through the top or bottom of the wall housing, and it's connected directly to the circuit boards. So what we're looking at here are, this system has 3 remote stations, so we have 3 IW4 cables coming in, and they're connected to their appropriate spots. Down along this area of the front board of the set, it's marked as speaker output, and we have numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, and those correspond to the control switches on the front of the unit behind the door. On these connections, you would have a single wire to each station. The wire connections to the screws 1 through 6, these are the red wires. And then down here on this terminal, we would have the silver wires. Here we have where it's marked as control are the blue wires, and then here are our copper wires. And it's unfortunate that the labeling on the boards doesn't correspond exactly with the colors of the wires. It would have made more sense if this had said speaker silver and this one down here said blue, and so forth. So to lessen the amount of confusion, it's going to be important when you disconnect these wires to label them so you can remember where they go. The other thing that you can do is you can take a picture of this with your phone so you have some reference as to what goes where. Silver wires, the blue wires, and the copper wires, they're all bundled together and connected under one large termination post here. So labeling will be important. So what we're going to do is we're going to start here with the copper wire. I'm sorry, with the blue insulated wire. Sorry, see, it's even confusing for me, and I do this all the time. So you back off the threaded part here, and then you can pull the wires out. And in this particular case, the installer did a good job, and he twisted all of the blue wires together into a bundle so they would all come out together. That makes it somewhat easier because you don't have to deal with a bunch of loose wires. So once we've taken those out, what we're going to do is we're going to take our masking tape and we're going to wrap it around the screw and stick it to itself like this. And then you take your marker or your pen, and we're going to write on here, we're going to put blue. And I think for extra information, since writing is easy, here next to the post it says L ground. So if we write LGND, which is how it's labeled here on the board, when you go to reinstall this later on, it'll be obvious that L-GND, well, that must be this one here. So there's one set. Now we'll do this one down here. This will be the copper wire. So we'll back off the capture screw, and we'll take the wires out. And these wires have been twisted together also, which is good. So again, we'll take our masking tape, we'll wrap it around the wires, and we'll take our marker and we're going to write copper, And down here on the board next to the standoff where the wires came from, it says control. So we're also going to write control, because again, that way we'll remember it. So those are those two. So then we have this one here left to do, and that's the silver wire. So again, same routine, back off the capture screw like that, and we'll take the wires out. But look, the installer got lazy. Instead of twisting the wires together, these are all loose and individual. So you can see how this is not nearly as neat and tidy as the other ones were, because you've got these loose wires and you're thinking, oh no, now what do I do? What if they get mixed up? Well, you don't have to worry about that too much, because what we're going to do is we're simply going to repeat what the first fella did, or maybe one guy did these and went to lunch and somebody else did those. We're just going to take the bare ends of the wires and we're going to carefully twist them together, because it doesn't make any difference when you connect it back up, loose or twisted, it works the same. I prefer twisted because it's neater. And then what I like to do is not just twist the bare ends together, but I like to twist back down on the insulation a little bit, so you have sort of a nice, neat twisted cable. And then, just like we've done before, we're going to take our masking tape, put it on here, and we're going to mark these. And do you remember what they are? I do. It's silver. So we'll write silver, and here it says speaker R ground. So I'm just going to put speaker SPK R G N D for ground, and then we know where that goes. So that's pretty easy. The other thing that's important to do on this after you've disconnected those wires is the capture screws. You should thread them back down, tighten them up. You don't have to wrench on them. You just snug them up a little bit, because what can happen with these is they do come out. And I have had sets where they show up missing, and you wouldn't think so, but finding this little threaded piece right here, it's not as easy as you think. So if you just snug them down a little bit, that's better. So there's 3 of our 4 remote station wires. And now we have to do these 3 down here. So we have 1, 2, and 3, and there's only 1 wire under each one. So we have to keep these organized so you remember where they go. Now these screws are Phillips screws, so we'll get our Phillips screwdriver, and I'm going to do it backwards. I'm going to do number 3 first, and I'm going to show you 2 ways to label these. So this is the red wire off number 3, and you can simply do as you've been doing. You take a piece of masking tape, put it on the wire, and label it as 3. That's pretty easy. Now I'm going to show you a different way. This is the way I do it when I go to somebody's house, because I don't like doing the masking tape thing at people's houses. I don't think it's great for someone who's never done this before, but if you do this all the time, one, it's a little clunky and it takes a little bit more time, and it's not that necessary because I pretty much know where things go. So what I like to do, which you could do also if you think it works for you, take the wire off. This is from number 2. I took it off the screw. Take your felt tip marker, and it really needs to be a felt tip marker, and you can put 2 hash marks on it for number 2. And then you can take off the wire for number 1, and you can put 1 hash mark on it. And the reason you have to use permanent marker is because if you use pen or pencil or some other thing and it gets rubbed off, then it's more difficult to get it hooked up properly. I have removed sets that have 12 speakers, and you mark each one as you go. You got 1, 2, you just put hash marks on everything, and that actually works pretty well. So now all of our 3 remote speakers are disconnected, so that's good. We'll just put the wires out of the way for a minute. This white cable here, this is from our door speaker, so we do the same thing. We remove the black-white wire from the door, it says door ground, and then we remove the other wire from the door terminal. Now, contrary to what people think, and they ask me all the time when they're putting their sets back in, it does not matter which wire goes to which screw. You can do them this way or you can do them this way. It doesn't make any difference. We will put a tag on it, and we will write on the tag door speaker. So that's done. The next thing we have to do is disconnect the wires from the Chime module. The Chime module is this board down here underneath this kind of tangle of wires. So if we move some of these out of the way, it'll be easier for you to see. It's this rectangular board down here. And on the face of the Chime module, there are 4 screws. There's a large screw here that's marked as common, and then you have 3 small screws, which are side door, rear door, and front door. And like a lot of installations, this house only has one doorbell button on the front door, so there's one red wire connected to front, and the other red-white wire, which is part of the red pair, is on the common. So all you have to do is loosen the screws and take the wires out from under the screws. Just like the door speaker wires, it doesn't matter which way you hook these back up. You can do them just as they were this way, or you can flip them around the other way. It doesn't make any difference. It's going to activate the chime the same way. However, it is absolutely positively necessary that one of the 2 wires ends up on the common screw, and then the other wire on whichever of the other 3 small screws it was originally connected to. If you don't have a wire on common, it will not ring. That is the single most common phone call I get when people get their systems back after we have repaired them, and I can't get my doorbell to ring. It's, did you put the, no, I don't have it on the common. Well, then it's not going to work. So again, we'll put our tape on here, and we're going to label this as Chime. And that's that. So now we've disconnected our door speaker, our Chime module, and our 3 remote stations, and we're nearly done. There's 2 more things to disconnect, or I guess there's 3 more things to disconnect, and then we can lift the set out of the wall. So inside the bottom left-hand corner of the wall housing, there are 2 things to disconnect. First, there's this green ground wire, and the green ground wire in this installation is under this screw right here, which holds the transformer can to the inside of the wall housing. That's typically where it would be connected. However, there are other little screw holes in the rough end or the wall housing where the installer might have connected it. So yours may not be in this exact spot, but it is supposed to be screwed to the wall housing somewhere. So wherever it is, find the green wire, because it's the only one that there is, and all you have to do is take the screw out, keep the screw, ground wire goes with the set, and what I would recommend is that you put the screw back in the hole and tighten it back down. Because if you're sending your set in for repair, by the time you ship it, we repair it and you get it back, a couple weeks will have gone by and you may lose the screw. Behind where the ground wire is located, down here inside the transformer can, right here, is the low voltage transformer. NuTone IM3204s use a NuTone 105T transformer. 105Ts are 16 volts at 15 watts. It's a small standard NuTone intercom transformer. It's not really necessary to turn the power off when you do any of this, but you can if you want to, and it makes you more comfortable. So the last bit to do here is we have to disconnect the red and white wires that come from the master station and connect to the transformer which powers it. So you'll need a Phillips screwdriver. And if you have a long Phillips screwdriver, you can actually get it at an angle well enough and to get to the screws. And all you have to do is back off the screws on the top of the transformer enough to unhook the wires and pull them off. And now your 3204 is almost fully disconnected. The transformer stays at the house. You don't send the transformer with the intercom. This stays here. If you were to remove the transformer, on the other side of the transformer is where it's wired into your house power, which is 115 volts, and most people don't want to mess with that. So I don't recommend that you think about taking the transformer out. We have all of that done. We have one more easy thing to disconnect, and then it's ready to lift our set out of the wall. Okay, so the last thing to disconnect from the master itself is the antenna, and that's this flat translucent cable here. The antenna wires are on the edge of the ribbon here, and they travel down to this top corner of the first board right here. And to unplug this, all you do is grab it and pull it straight up. There are 2 pins here and they match the holes in the plug-in, so when you go to reinstall it, you just line it up and push it down. So it's very simple. So we'll undo the antenna, and now we're ready to lift the set out of the wall. Like all NuTone intercoms since 1984, they have these hinged brackets right here. It's attached to the back of the faceplate, and then it has a long slot in it here, and then the slot turns to the right, and there's like a keyway slot here. So all you have to do to remove this is you slide it forward to the end of the slot, you slide it slightly to the side to line up the keyway slot with the screws, and you lift it off, and now your set has been removed. And that's all there is to removing an IM3204 from where it's installed in your house. I hope you found this to be interesting and helpful. If you have problems with your NuTone IM3204, you can contact us and I'll see if I can help you out. That's all for today. See you on the next video.